Hey, Russ Miller here, DW hardware rack artist, and today we're going to do a really cool and unique video about the 9000 rack series from DW. And it's about you converting a kit, which is what I'm doing here, from cymbal stands, multi-clamp tom arm type setup to a full rack system. And of course, utilizing the DW 9000 rack. So we're going to talk about how to first design it, get the right parts, get your parts list together so you can order the right stuff, and then assembly, even how to mark it for your cartridge, or coming up and down so it comes up and down exactly the same every time, how to mark a carpet and the rack itself. And one of the great things about a rack is it comes up exactly the same at every single gig. It's one of the great benefits. There's other benefits to the rack as well. There's sonic benefits to your drums. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And even some of the other DW hardware offerings like the bass drum lifter and what that does sonically to your drums. So there's a really cool, unique video in store, and watch for some cool rack designs and ideas as well that might help you out. So let's get started. DW 9000 rack. Okay, first let's start at the top. I'm working with this setup. You can see there's some serious multi-clamp to stand to tom arm action happening here. This makes it really tough to get set up every time in a consistent way. The other issue is that I've been working on some new approach positions to the ride cymbal. This has caused me to lower the ride cymbal, which moves my 12-inch tom more to the top center of the bass drum. This is a really hard position to achieve with tom arms and clamps all the way over from the ride cymbal stand. So, going to the front rack bar is the key to the setup. First step, let's make a diagram of the setup. Include all of the drums, cymbals, and accessories in the layout and how you think you might like the rack bars to configure so that everything can be mounted in their current positions that are set with your stands. You should measure the basic distances. This will give you the proper bar lengths to use. Then you need to make a list of the amount of clamps that you will need to connect the bars together and mount all of the various instruments in the setup. Now don't forget to think about what clamps need to be able to angle the bars to get to certain positions. Go ahead and get your hands on the gear. After I got everything into my inventory, I separate everything out into like piles. This is so I can access them easily while I'm building the rack. I separate the bars from the legs and then group the various clamps together. You should have the tube to tube clamps, bar to multi clamps, and angle clamps all put together to start your build. You're going to want to use memory clamps to lock down anything that will potentially slip because of the weight, like a large tom, or is going to be removed on the setup for setup and teardown. Also, don't forget the rack key and the leveling nameplate. Now let's get building. First, I lay out the ground pieces, meaning all the stuff that's on the ground and not really going to be attached to the rack. Although I will tie the hi-hat stand in a bit later. After these are all positioned, I use black gaffer's tape and a silver marker to label and mark the positions on my gig rug. Now I can start to build the front main rack. This is done with shorter side legs so that the rack sits a bit lower down by the height of the top of the bass drum. Also, I'm using a 36-inch long tube as the right leg to create a snare tower, which I'll show you in just a minute. For this kit, because I'm now using an 8-inch tom, the center of the curved bar is not on the center of the kick. This allows for more mounting area to the right of the bass drum. After the front rack is set, I add the sub-kick mount. I call this the floating sub-kick. For those of you using a sub-kick, it's a great benefit of the rack to not have that on the floor in front of the kick drum. Next, I create the snare position. Use the rack foot to create a vertical support for the DW snare basket. This is great to not have those snare feet in the way of that pedal setup. Don't forget to mark the gig rug, the position, and the numbers of the foot bars. The side racks are next, and I add a great little unique piece. It's a short bar connection piece to tie the hi-hat stand in so it won't move and be perfectly stable. I also have another unique design. Using these angled bar clamps, I create these cymbal towers on either side of the rack to hold the main crash cymbals. Now these are made using the tube top cymbal adapter. They're putting that on top of a regular tube and then inserting one of the standard cymbal arms. Now that the base of the rack is finished, I just start to add all of the various instruments and check their positions as I go. I make sure to play the kit each time something gets put up. This way I can confirm that everything is set and can be locked down with the memory locks. I add the cymbals with standard cymbal arms and the static auxiliary hi-hats using the auxiliary hi-hat arms. As I mentioned in the intro, I want to give you some tricks that might help you in putting together your own personal rig. First, I use the DW lifter for small diameter bass drums. I have this 16-inch auxiliary bass drum that I use in my setup for the open kick drum tones. I put this on the DW lifter for sonic reasons. So let's check out the difference between keeping the drum on the floor with the legs down and then putting it on the DW lifter and seeing the difference when that beater can hit the center of a small diameter bass drum. This is a great look. It looks like the drum is floating in the air, and of course it sounds much better. One of the main sonic benefits of the rack is also on the toms. The resonance transfer loss using the standard tom arm with a multi-clamp attached to a cymbal stand is pretty dramatic. Let's listen to the difference when the same tom is on the rack versus the tom arm clamp cymbal stand setup. Finally, let's talk about marking the rack for setup and teardown. I use a very simple system. I have small stickers that are numbered. I just start at 1 and go up from there. They all go on the clamps, and those are the only clamps that will come apart for teardown. If there's no sticker at that clamp set, then that location does not come apart. It just goes straight into the case. I then take a small piece of packing tape which sticks really good to the surface of these clamps, and I cover the stickers so they won't come off easily. You can always change them out this way, but it stands up to the rigors of road work if you have that small little laminated tape over the stickers. I use a similar system for the cymbals. I mark inside of the bell with a number on each cymbal, and that corresponding number is on the cymbal arm or the cymbal tower. This is obviously more important when you have people working for you setting things up, but this is a very simple and effective system, and it helps get the kit up quicker and down quicker at every event. Okay, that's how it comes together. The rack is pretty simple, and it makes a huge difference in the flexibility, consistency, and even the sound of the kit. I hope you learned a few things and are inspired to work on your own DW9000 rack. Thanks for joining me for this DW9000 rack series discussion. I look forward to seeing what designs you guys come up with and what unique looks you can create for your personal drums. We'll see you guys out on the road.